Okay, I also am recording.
Very good.
So if how do you do a podcast again? I've forgotten.
Wait. See, everybody else, like, I've never been the one who introduces the thing. Hang on, let me think about, like, what other people do.
I know I have to sync us up. That's the bit.
Yes!
I have to go 3, 2, 1. Then on a fourth beat, we have to clap our hands together, so that when Conrad, lovely boy, does the edit on it, he can use that as an anchor point, and that's how you make a podcast.
That is how you. I mean, I think that you have to have like jokes on it as well.
Oh, we don't just clap and then stop recording and send it to Conrad.
I think we have to like do jokes for like an hour.
Jokes. All right, I'll try and think of some.
Boners.
Boners?
That's a joke, right?
That's a quality joke. Boners are funny because they're erect penises.
Yeah, and they're
usually.
Like they're intrusive. They're intrusive. I had a friend explain this to me over a decade ago, that the reason penises are funny is because they're intrusive.
They are. They just sort of get in the way. They sort of burrow in and barge in and get in. And they're just like, oh, hey guys, what's going on here? Like that. Like, you're just trying to get on with your life, and then a penis just shoves itself in your mouth, and you can hear it in your mouth. I might have been confusing that with a dream I had.
That's a fucking good dream, shit.
I mean, I woke up covered in spunk, so a penis might have been there, for real.
Covered in it?
Covered in it. It wasn't so much a wet dream as it was a tidal dream.
I feel like there may have been multiple penises involved, Steph.
There might have been. You don't hear about wet dreams so much anymore, do ya?
You know, you really don't.
When I was younger, it's all you would ever hear about. It was like, oh, God, did you wet dream last night? Yeah, mate, yeah. Fucking wet dreamed all over the place, mate. Yeah, I'm so virile. But no one talks about them anymore. It's like ram raiding.
Or the Bermuda Triangle.
You never hear about the Bermuda Triangle anymore.
I think the last time I heard about the Bermuda Triangle was when you did your video about Anthem. Like, apparently that was the basic idea that, like, the first actual idea that they had for Anthem was, like, what if the Bermuda Triangle?
At this point, that'd be a fairly esoteric premise. Because you're right, like, same goes for quicksand. I think that's been pointed out by other media before, that we don't really talk about quicksand anymore.
We really don't. And, like, it's not part of our media in general anymore, is quicksand.
No, not really. It's come up a little bit, not explicitly mentioned as such, but I have been playing the new Inspired Man. The Inspired Man came out, the sequel to the original Inspired Man, on the PlayStation the 4th. And Sandman is the first baddie that you fight in it.
I like
right
the
at
Sandman.
the beginning of the game.
I like him.
Oh, he fucking brought me a dream the other day, and it was the sweetest one that I've ever seen, and he fucked me up the arse. You save a guy near the beginning, and he is sinking in the sand. And they don't make a big deal out of it being quicksand. And he's not, like, holding onto a vine, which cartoons told me is the only way you really get out of quicksand, is if you grab a vine. And I used to be terrified of that, because you don't get vines in England.
You also don't get quicksand.
Oh yeah, it'd have been alright.
You know, speaking of that, one place I do see quicksand a lot, I swear to God, I'm not trying to do this on every fucking Trashgirl Diaries, which is the name of this podcast. Hello. This is the introduction now. This is the introduction.
It's been a minute.
It has been quite some time. But yes, I am Elsa Farron, you are Stephanie Sterling and you're fucking amazing.
Yeah, because I feel like so far my performance on this podcast has not been indicative of that.
See, well, you provided a hook. You provided the quicksand.
That's true. I sent for hook and then provided it.
I swear I'm not always, like, just looking for excuses to bring this up, but one area in which quicksand is almost as common as it is in the horrifying tales that people told to children in the 1990s, is Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh, Final Fantasy?
Yes!
We do not mention that on here. It's like ram raiding. You just don't mention it like on this show anymore. You never hear that.
Final Fantasy, not really a thing so much.
No,
anymore.
Not anymore. I mean, if you've played Final Fantasy 15, then you can tell that Final Fantasy isn't a thing anymore. That game is all right.
I like that game.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But yes, Final Fantasy XIV and Quicksand.
Yes. Well, for starters, Quicksand actually does show up in boss fights from time to time.
Excellent.
The game recently patched, and there was a new instanced dungeon added in which you fight a creature that can create like a huge pool of quicksand, and you have to run out of it, but you are slowed down by it. So it's you have to be quicker on your feet than you think. Additionally, one of the 3 cities that you can start the game in, Ul'dah, has a sort of tavern, sort of social club area called the Quicksand.
Oh.
And on the server on which I play Final Fantasy XIV, the Quicksand has a reputation that is, if anything, the reputation doesn't really do it justice for the sorts of folks that hang out in the Quicksand on the Balmung server of Final Fantasy XIV. You see people getting up to some shit. Perhaps literally.
Are they fucking in there?
Oh, yeah.
Are they fucking in the quicksand?
They're fucking in the quicksand. They're getting deep in that quicksand.
Yeah. Sinking into that quicksand.
As they sink into each other and sink further into the depths of depravity.
Chafing. And all of that.
For real.
Because sand is quite dry, so it's not the sexiest sort of. It's kind of the last thing you want in your crack.
Yeah, well, spoilers for Final Fantasy 16, but tell that to Clive. You're on a beach, mate. Why are you picking that time to fuck the chick? Like, good for you. Took you long enough, but Jesus Christ.
It's not the most inappropriate place for video game coitus. I think that trophy still is safely in the hands of Heavy Rain, the Quantic Dream classique, where there is a sex scene because obviously there is, because Quantic Dream wants you to know that their games are very mature, very, very mature, very, very adult, discussing and examining very, very meaningful grown-up themes, like doing a sex and doing a funny Chinese accent. Like, these are all the things that are emotional and mean so much to me as a designer. Obviously, there's a sex scene in Heavy Rain.
That brings me back, the fucking, the David Cage voice.
Emotions. I've met Elliot Page. No big deal. It is a very big deal. I've met Willem Dafoe.
Fucking wish I could meet Elliot Page.
I would too. I would shake his hand and I'd say, you know what? Keep it up, good fella. Keep up all your good acting. All of your acting.
Every minute that Elliot Page exists on the same planet as me and has not kissed me on the mouth, I grow angrier.
You see, I was trying not to go there because otherwise I will break down into... I try not to think about the fact that, like, Elliot Page has not, like, done deep kissing with tongues on it, like, on me. And now there's you, not done it on you either, and that's just double tragedy.
And, like, like I said, it just pisses me off, but despite all my rage, I have still not kissed Elliot Page.
Quite good. Quite
Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
I tell you what else, like, where there also wasn't kissing. Two people that hadn't kissed are the two characters that fuck in Heavy Rain. Ethan Mars and the other one. The woman one.
Is her name Natalie?
Let's go with Natalie. I call her Magic of Sleep because there was a line that I was working with Destructoid at the time, and we couldn't stop fucking laughing at like the terrible dialogue in that game. And at one point, she's very tired, and she thinks that maybe the magic of sleep will help her feel less tired. Funnily enough, I'm looking at my. As I said that, I was looking at my taskbar on Windows, and it literally says Heavy Rain on it. Apparently, that's what I've got to look forward to tonight. On the little weather ticker I've got. Actually, Fee and I were out on the town today, and it was fucking pissing it down. But anyway, the point of all this is that Ethan in Heavy Rain had just killed a bloke. His son is missing, being kidnapped by a serial killer who is making him go through Saw-like torture trials to find his son. He just murdered somebody, and then, while he's covered in bandages and blood and is completely fucked up, Quantic Dream thought that was the point at which there should be a romantic sex scene between two people who didn't really know each other for the amount of romantic tension that they tried to convince us they'd had up till now. They didn't know each other. And then they just sort of bashed their faces together.
Yeah.
And very awkwardly fuck in a way that is almost indistinguishable from the fucking scene in Team America World Police.
The thing that really gets me, I mean, there's a lot of things that get me about Heavy Rain. Fun fact, Heavy Rain is my least favorite video game of all time.
Oh.
I hate it intensely.
What's funny is if you'd have said that about 10 years ago, people would jump down your fucking throat.
I did say it 10 years ago, and people did jump down my throat.
There you
I was
are.
like, no, this is fucking terrible.
I mean, they jumped down my throat for saying it was just good and not perfect. Very similar, in fact, to the whole Zelda thing. And the thing is, to show you how transient and meaningless a lot of controversies over video game opinions are, we can say now that Heavy Rain, you can straight up say Heavy Rain fucking sucked, and no one cares anymore because none of it's consequential. None of this matters.
So many new products have long since come out. It's why nobody fucking cares about the stupid Turf Wizard game anymore, because it was just, it was the new product. Nobody cares about...
Well, let's face it, most of the people that were standing for that were only doing it because of J.K. Rowling's transphobia. A lot of people were making a very deliberate point. In the same way, people flocked to Chick-fil-A when Tucker Carlson was support Chick-fil-A because they hate the gays. Which I've talked about before in other podcasts and things, was one of the scariest things I ever saw in my time in America, was the massive traffic jam that was caused, because I was still living in Mississippi, the massive traffic jam that was caused by people queuing up at the drive-thru for Chick-fil-A in the wake of them being criticised for funding anti-LGBTQ plus efforts and literally supporting regimes in other countries that were explicitly violating human rights about it, and just seeing people deliberately supporting them to tell the gay community that they were worth less to them than a chicken fucking sandwich. That was terrifying.
Excuse me.
It was that.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's how that was the feeling in my heart.
The fucked up thing is, before it was common knowledge that all of the things about Chick-fil-A were common knowledge, I quite enjoyed their product. Haven't had it in ages now, obviously, but
yeah.
The fucked up thing is, I keep hearing whispers in the wind that they've cut that shit out, and also that they have not. And I just really wish that the fucking media would make up its mind.
Yeah. I have never understood the Chick-fil-A thing. Like, it's... I mean, I've said, like, America doesn't know how bad its food is, in general. It's awful garbage food. But I never understood the fascination with Chick-fil-A. It's always been mediocre. Like, I had some once, and I'm like, this is the manna from heaven that people speak of. And the fact that there are even gay people who are like, yeah, I know they're a terrible company and their executives want me dead, but I just can't say no to that tasty chicken sandwich. Never understood it.
Did you get the spicy one?
No. If I want spicy food, I've got like a million options.
That's the one that, like, I actually had to think about, how I won't get to eat that spicy chicken sandwich anymore, and just think, oh, fuck, that sucks. Because I do like it. It is tasty. But, no, the regular ones, just, like, it's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
But, like...
It's a lump of chicken.
They're fine. Like, they're really popular, though, in the South, where you also have Popeyes. Just go to a fucking Popeyes.
Yeah. Popeyes was fine. I had that too. Like...
Love me some Popeyes, I do. I do love that chicken.
From Popeyes?
Yes, the one that's from Popeyes.
Oh, I liked their little shrimp baskets.
I like shrimp in general.
Yeah, but I think that is, one of the reasons why the Wizard game was one of the biggest sort of pre-orders on Steam. Because let's face it, when it came out and everyone saw how fucking mid it was, I doubt many people were flocking to it afterwards. It was just another one. And you're right. For all the fuss, all the furor, and by the furor, I mean, Rowling, of course. Did you get that? I was calling her a fucking Nazi.
The next time I see a photograph of her, I'm going to Photoshop a ugly square mustache onto her.
There you go. But I think that's what it was, and ultimately, the game itself never mattered. I tried to make that point when I did the Jimquisition video on that game and why J.K. Rowling was a problem, which quite a few people who didn't YouTubers understand got
so angry about that, and it made me so
yeah, I never saw the fallout, because I don't. Like, I put a video up, and then I don't look at exterior reactions to it. I'll get some feedback from social and the comments for a bit, and then I step away from the computer.
That is for the best.
And I never watch any of those, like, right-wing grifter videos. Oh, God, it must have been about 11, 12 years ago. I watched one, like, this was sort of proto-alt-right era. I watched one hate video about me, and it disturbed me. I mean, a lot of it was just the usual sort of, like, fat insults, but it was the venom with which it was spouted. The level of... I don't know if I've ever heard a tone that dripping with outright passionate hatred for another person. And that's what disturbed me. It wasn't even that it was about me so much. It was a disturbing and disturbed level of hatred as this person talked about what a piece of shit I was. I won't bother mentioning his name, but I haven't watched anyone since. Like, and I've seen names come and go. Like, for a few years it was one guy that everyone was like, oh, debate him, he wants to debate you, Sterling. And I just ignore it, because I never watched the videos, and I never cared to. And then there was another guy, like, names stick around for a couple of years of these guys, these grifters on YouTube that want to get my attention. And then they disappear.
Fuck off. Like, I don't want to, like, I refuse to engage anyone who asks for a debate or
no.
The whole debate bro thing. I just think it doesn't really have much validity. But we were talking earlier about the Wizard game and how that was the product of the moment.
It was, yes. For like a week.
Yes, and I would like to actually pivot the discussion to another game that was the product.
Mm-hmm.
Because we talked, I mentioned earlier that Final Fantasy XIV recently had a patch that, added a bunch of new content. And another game that was famous for being the product recently had a patch. And so I took that as an opportunity to replay it and actually sink a decent amount of time into it. And the result is one of the most emotionally engaging, for better and worse, experiences I can recall having with a video game. And I feel like it's enhanced by the shock that I felt anything playing Cyberpunk 2077.
Cyberpunk the 2077.
Yes, and the thing
that sure
that
is a
I
game.
think is interesting, the thing I think is very interesting, because you, the Cassandra of video games, have
Hello?
said things.
Guilty as charged.
You've said some shit in your time, Stephanie.
Oh, isn't it though?
Isn't it though?
Guilty!
Sorry, I was just taken aback by that. That you sounded like Nathan Lane for a second there. Brief aside, I love Nathan Lane, and I would die for Nathan Lane.
Abso-fucking-lutely. I was thrilled the other day when I found out he was still alive. He's kind of inhabited that Gene Wilder bracket. Now that Gene Wilder sadly is no longer with us, I think my brain needs one of those guys, like the actor who you think is dead but isn't. And Gene Wilder was that for many people, and then obviously, has passed away. So I think my brain has substituted it for Nathan Lane.
Nathan Lane is still alive, and so is Matthew Broderick. But anyway,
I was just very amused by that.
Yeah, they were co-stars in The Lion King and also in The Producers. But anyway, I bring up Cyberpunk because you, as the Cassandra of games media, at one point you actually released a video that said that Cyberpunk should have been delayed for 3 years instead of, I think, 3 months.
I did.
You did say that, and now version 2.0 of the game was recently rolled out along with its first and apparently last bit of downloadable content. 3 years after the original release of the game.
Yes, I saw someone on Twitter mention this as well, that I was literally correct. That it took them 3 years to finish the game.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, having played it now, 3 years after its original release, this is the state it should have been released in. If they had released it like this, entirely different ballgame in regards to Cyberpunk and maybe in regards to CD Projekt Red's reputation. Because the game, as it stands right now, I really, really like it. I would actually go so far as to say that I love it.
Ooh.
It is endlessly entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
They may not learn from their own mistakes. We'll see. But they certainly learn from other studios' mistakes. Because you remember that period of time when Bethesda games would get a famous person to show up in their video game for a cup of coffee and then fuck off.
Oh, yeah. We got Patrick Stewart for 5 minutes. We'll stick him in the trailers like he's the star.
In Fallout 3 was Liam Neeson.
Oh, yeah, it was Liam Neeson, wasn't it? Yeah.
But Cyberpunk, one thing that does happen in Cyberpunk 2077 is they get some fucking mileage out of Keanu Reeves.
That is true.
He is very present.
Earlier this year, I did play... I never got around to finishing it, but I did play a fair bit of Cyberpunk 2077. I've been tempted to go back, so with this recent update, it might be nice to get sort of an idea for just how finished it is now. But yes, I have played a fair bit of it, and you are absolutely right. When they had Keanu Reeves promote this, it's because Keanu Reeves is in this game with a capital N.
He really, really is. I've described the game to my friends as the best video game I've ever played that gives you the option, and it's a very good option, to tell Keanu Reeves to go fuck himself.
Yeah, because Keanu Reeves, like, he plays a wanton dickhead in this,
God,
in
Johnny Silverhand.
Cyberpunk.
Like, and the thing is, like, the more I get into this story and the more I learn about him through conversation, through his memories, through what other people say about him, he's a turd.
Yeah, like, not just a jerk, like, he's a piece of shit.
He's a terrible human being with microscopic dick energy. Like, and it's funny actually because I was thinking about how I could use Keanu Reeves characters to illustrate big dick energy versus small dick energy, because John Wick needs a wheelbarrow. Johnny Silverhand needs a microscope. Johnny Silverhand is just such a swaggering, vapid, arrogant, and like I think he is intriguing as a character. He's promoted within the game as this legendary figure, and then you encounter the man himself, or his ghost, his internet ghost, I guess. I don't know. And it's kind of like, not only don't meet your heroes, don't meet anybody's fucking heroes.
Yeah, yeah. I, one thing I like about that is it not only is it a game actually making use of its celebrity voiceover in a meaningful way, it also turns the idea on its head a little bit as well, because you have Keanu Reeves in a game, you would reasonably expect him to play, if not the hero, then the hero's sort of ideal, and the either a mentor character or someone we're supposed to look up to. Like, again, Patrick Stewart in Oblivion. Usually you get a celebrity in, it's not to have them with their likeness as well. Like, it is Keanu Reeves' face and everything in the game.
Oh, yeah.
And they brought him in to play a complete fucking cog, which is sort of unexpected of sort of the gimmick of having a celebrity in your game, which I think is what I appreciate the most about it, is the fact that they brought in Keanu Reeves and just had him play this real shit piece.
And the thing I like also it's Keanu Reeves, who has like a public reputation for kindness,
Oh yeah, lovely
humility.
boy.
I think of Keanu Reeves as sort of the anti Bill Murray, because I hate Bill Murray. I think he's an arrogant old man who just thinks that the sun shines out of his asshole and his shit smells like raspberries and cinnamon.
Now that bit is true.
Bill Murray's shit smells like raspberries and cinnamon.
Raspberries and cinnamon. He exclusively eats raspberries and cinnamon, which also is why Spunk tastes a bit like it as well. I have it on good authority. But yeah, they actually tested it in a lab. They had Russian scientists look into it, mostly because they thought that there could be Cold War applications for it. Bill Murray, a little bit quiet about the fact that he was sort of working with the Soviets on that. But no, they eventually released the public findings when there was sort of an amnesty on Hollywood celebrities, specifically Ghostbusters actors who were working with the Soviets. Rick Moranis, of course, helped them develop a dirty bomb.
I heard something about Annie Potts as well, actually.
Oh, absolutely.
Annie Potts and Sigourney Weaver.
Well, Sigourney Weaver actually headed up the USSR's chemical warfare division. Like, she was a chief researcher. And people, again, they keep it on the down low. They don't talk about it. All was forgiven. Obviously, Sigourney had valuable expertise in that field, which is why America sought not to convict, and did, in fact, have her working afterwards for the CIA, sort of black ops kind of stuff. Actually, as a field agent, I hear, because she knows how to kill a man in 57 different ways.
Hot.
It's very hot. Like, oof. 40 of the ways are sexual.
Good. She can do any of them to me. What a way to go. And what a way to come. Sorry, I've recently been thinking about, like, how, like, this appeared to be a James Cameron thing. James Cameron for like a split second, he was really into like the action mom as a trope
Yeah,
in Aliens and Terminator 2 especially. And I can't help but feel like Sarah Connor and Ellen Ripley, specifically in the sequels, probably awakened something in a lot of people.
possibly. Yeah, I think like the tough sort of no nonsense take charge mom figure did awaken a lot. I think it helped sort of pave the way for Angela White to have a career, and was of course very influential. And these days, both Terminator 2 and Aliens would be put on blast for being woke, quote unquote woke, by the alt-right mob.
Oh god, they really would.
But of course, they've been grandfathered, or should I say grandmothered, in because they grew up with those films and have been able to divorce the context, or in some cases, you know, there's that famous quote from one of the grifters, "Oh, I bet you think RoboCop's political." A lot of them have just erased the politics, the social commentary from these films altogether.
Star Wars isn't political.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, a lot of people on that side of the political fence, to them, Aliens is just aliens, like the Xenomorphs. It's just big monsters getting shot. In fact, I think, like, we look at some of the video games, many of the video games that came out after Aliens, and a lot of people, I think, missed what the point of it was, because so many video games are Marines going oorah and gunning down Xenomorphs by the hundreds. When, of course, the point of Aliens is it spends like 20 minutes building up these colonial Marines as, wisecracking, big dick energy, gun-toting.
There's the shot, like the very famous shot, where Vasquez, the best Marine, she's got that enormous gun and she's holding it at crotch level.
Oh yeah, the smart gun.
It's not subtle.
It's massive. It's like Keanu Dick energy, like the smart gun. But yeah, like it builds all of these Marines up, and then in the very first encounter with the Xenomorphs, half of them get munched. Half of them get fucking mullered. The moment they can't use their guns, and the moment they get jumped, following that sort of restriction, they can't do anything. Because all they had were their penis substitutes. All they had were their guns. And they spend the rest of the film panicking. The most testosterone oozing of the Marines, Hudson, Bill Paxton.
I thought he was Hicks.
No, Hicks is Michael Biehn.
Okay.
Yeah, because Sergeant Apone says, "Secure that shit, Hudson." So yeah, Bill Paxton, he's the biggest talker at the beginning of the film. He's the one who does the famous line about, the electronic supersonic ball breakers or whatever it was. Like, he's listing all the guns and all the shit they can do, and he just keeps talking about how he's gonna, shoot this, shoot that. And then he spends the rest of the film crying. Like, everyone quotes that "game over, man" quote, and again, I think in a nod to sort of, like, losing context over the years, I think a lot of people forget that quote wasn't cool in the film. His voice breaks when he says it. He's like, "Game over, man, game over." Like, he's on the verge of tears.
I think he is crying.
Well, yeah. He spends most of the film, like, broken. And they make the point that Newt, the little girl, she survived this shit, and she is handling everything better than these big, tough, grown macho men. And a lot of that gets lost these days. Another interesting point is Predator is the same. The first Predator? I've talked about this before, possibly on Jimquisition, but growing up, and even now, like, I've always favoured the Xenomorphs over the Yautja,
Is that what they're
Predators.
called, the Yautja?
I think it's the Yautja, I know there's a Y. They do have a name.
Predator.
I bet I got it wrong, and I was trying to show off, and now I'll sound like a right dick.
Let's see. The Predator franchise. Begin with Predator. Yautja.
Yautja. I was close.
The Predator, also known as Yautja, is the breastular extraterrestrial species featured in the Predator and Alien vs. Predator science fiction franchises
The Hunter Beyond the
characterized by
Stars.
blah, 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 blah. I don't know. There's one of them in Mortal Kombat that one time.
That is true. But yeah, growing up, Predator was fine. Like, the first movie, it was fine. But I watched it a few years ago and gained a new appreciation for it because it's the same as Aliens. It establishes all of these, like, soldiers going into the jungle to shoot shit, and they're all talking trash and sounding cool or utterly homophobic. You've got Jesse Ventura, you've got Arnold, you've got all these big tough guys. And then the Predator systematically robs them of their testicles. Just the masculinity is carved away from them for the whole film. And looking back, it's got a very similar, if not the same message that Aliens had. Or, Aliens had several themes, but one of those themes was that, like, yeah, these army boys, like, these literal boys playing army men, the moment something they don't understand happens, the moment they can't just shoot their gun and have the problem go away, they can't handle it. They are nothing. And these days, a film trying to tell that story would be pilloried by, the Shapiros of the world, all the alt-right YouTubers and that. They'd go, Predator's gone woke, which actually they already did that, didn't they? Because that new Predator came out, Prey, and it dared to star a woman.
And she wasn't white either.
She wasn't white, yeah, it was a twofer for those fucking grifters.
Jesus Christ.
There is no way they wouldn't call Aliens woke if they hadn't grown up with it and been conditioned to accept it, like, as a film that existed before so-called wokeism happened. I think, honestly, the grandfathering, or should I say grandmothering, of Aliens and Predator, and indeed, like, all of Verhoeven's work, I think it really does show the flimsiness of that viewpoint of the anti-woke mob, that they don't know what they're talking about.
I'll tell you what we should do.
Well, what should we do about it?
We should get them, all of those right-wing grifters, right? We should show them all. There's a scene that can very readily be found where Kira Noir, a black woman, a fairly athletic black woman, tops Angela White. It's quality work. It's quality work. And I think that if we got all of the alt-right grifters to complain about that one scene...
Has porn gone woke?
Has porn gone woke?
That might be the title of this installment of the Trashgirl Diaries.
Has porn
gone woke? Sometimes porn shows a woman coming, which Ben Shapiro has already told us doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Do you remember when WAP was a thing? Like, we talk about, like, media, like, we've talked about specifically games, but you talk about media that causes a massive stir and then just all of the controversy and all of the offense it might have caused just disappears. Like, it was all just inconsequential.
Yeah, like, there are so many flashes in a pan because...
Yeah.
The content machine moves at the speed of sound.
WAP, Wet Ass Pussy.
I love that song.
It is a delight. But yeah, like, that was the thing that made Ben Shapiro confess that whenever he's fucking his wife, he goes in dry because he can't get a wet. He denied the existence of wet pussies, which is funny because he could just look in the mirror for that. There we are. Actual joke for the show. Listeners can take that home with them. A little free gift from the Trashgirl Diaries desk to your home.
Wrap it up in a little cloth, like a little kerchief. Fold it up nice. And put it under your pillow as you sleep.
Lovely stuff.
It is a joke. A joke.
That's just yours to keep, listener. Aren't you lucky? God, I'm so jealous of you. I wish I could be a fan of this show. But I hate myself.
I am a fan of this show. I fucking listen to this a lot. I do. I listen to past episodes quite a bit.
I have listened back, and I often don't listen to my own podcasts, because I just don't. But I do. I have listened back to every single one of these ones that we've done. Because it's quite a nice little show, really, when you think about it.
It is nice.
It's all right.
It's a pleasant show. It is. I think we make a good product. I think that we
I
do.
think we do. We put out a quality product. A wet-ass product is what we put out.
And it's only going to get wetter and asser from here.
Oh, absolutely. My God, Megan Thee Stallion wants to have sex.
Yeah, it's true. She does.
I love her music videos. They're very fun to watch if you're on. If you're ever on, it's just a little tip from Steph to the listeners. If you're ever on LSD, Megan Thee Stallion videos, very entertaining.
I'll keep that in mind. The only video I've seen of hers is the bit of ad work she did for Mortal Kombat because she dressed up like Melina.
Oh yeah, and she sang "Wet Ass Fatality."
God, I wish. The makeup that gave her Melina's like schnaggly teeth was very, very good. And here is a secret about Megan Thee Stallion from me to you. I'd do her.
like sexually and
I
sensually.
would do her all the way. I would do the sex with her.
She'd love that. She'd be made up with that.
I think she would, because that seems to be a lot of her. I think you've mentioned this before.
Yes.
Well,
I talked about it on Boston's Favourite Son.
How angry she is that she's not having sex at any given moment.
That seems to be the theme of, like, I've listened to a few of her songs, and granted, it was while I was on acid, but what I picked up from her discography, or dickography, as 'twere, she wants sex and is furious that she's not getting it in that moment. That's the theme of her entire musical library. She is angry every second of every day that she ain't getting raw fucking.
Honestly, it's relatable.
Yeah.
I don't understand how she isn't just fucking 24 hours a day when she looks like that.
She might be. Like, she might only stop to, like, record a single. And even then, she might be getting it. Someone might be, like, just having a munch on her while she's doing it. We don't know.
While she was recording the body yaddy 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 song, she could have been getting it right up her.
Absolutely. In any hole, except, I guess, the mouth. Because she'd need that for doing her songs.
You know what? Good for her.
Oh, absolutely good for her.
Good for her. Good for you, Megan Thee Stallion. Getting it right up you, probably whenever you want.
Whenever you want. Megan Thee Stallion could have sex whenever she wants.
Whenever she wants. Which
only makes the rage about not getting fucked all the more tragic, because, again, like, we're giving you all the showbiz goss here on Trashgirl Diaries.
Oh, yes.
But the only person on the planet who doesn't know that Megan Thee Stallion could fuck whenever she wants is Megan Thee Stallion. She doesn't know. She wakes up in the morning and there isn't a fist up her. And she's furious. She's like, where's my fist?
There's probably a pile of exhausted humans just right next to the bed and also, like, on it, like, sort of sloughing onto it, like that one wave, the tidal wave of corpses from that one bit of Blasphemous. Do you remember Blasphemous?
Well, I've been thinking about Blasphemous a lot, actually, because I've been playing Lords of the Fallen. Lords of the Fallen is a Dark Souls copy. Like, it's not even a Souls-like, it's a Dark Souls copy TM. Basically, has nothing to do with the original Lords of the Fallen. It's related to Lords of the Fallen in the same way that Troll 2 is related to Troll, in that it's not. And it is one of the most Dark Souls-likes ever, which is saying a lot considering how Dark Souls a lot of Souls-likes are. But stylistically, tonally, they have just lifted Dark Souls. To its credit, actually, because it's a really good forgery. But one of the things that stood out to me playing Lords of the Fallen, aside from how fucking annoying it is, like, it was designed by dicks, like actual jerkwads. I'm convinced.
The kind of people who seem to think that the entire point of Dark Souls is that it's hard.
They learned the wrong lessons.
So if it's difficult to do it, that difficult equals good. Setting aside for a moment that all the fucking
Yeah.
NES games that are fucking impossible because they're shit.
50% of the enemies in Lords of the Fallen shoot stuff. Several levels take place on thin platforms, and many enemies have a powerful shove move with really, like, aggressive poise, so they can just shove through your combos, and they hide around corners constantly. Like, I have this problem with Lies of P as well, where these Souls-likes played, like, the first 10 minutes of Dark Souls and thought, oh, the ambushing stuff is neat, let's do that constantly, to the point where you roll your eyes after half an hour because every corner has something hiding round it.
Oh, hello, Code Vein. You're standing right there, aren't you?
Lords of the Fallen is lousy with that, and there are so many enemies that have this awful shove move that pushes you back about 500 yards, right off of the sides of ledges. But that's neither here nor there. I talked about that a fair bit on Podquisition. The point I'm bringing up is whoever did the art design on Lords of the Fallen fucking loves Blasphemous.
Good.
There are so many, like, pointy helmet masks covered in thorns. Like, I fucking love it. It took so much, and I'm convinced they must have got it from Blasphemous.
I mean, that's kind of a narrow... Like, there's only really so many places you could get a conical hat covered in thorns.
Yeah. And it extends to so much. Like, there's an entire suite of weapons that are covered in thorns and, like, essentially barbed wire. My current weapon that I'm using in it actually is a hammer, the head of which is covered in spikes. The handle of which is covered in spikes.
Mick Foley appreciates that, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's called, like, the Hammer of Holy Anguish or something, or Holy Agony. And it's one of several weapons that are just wrapped in barbed wire, designed to make the wielder bleed as much as the opponent. Luckily, it doesn't have a gameplay reflection, which I wouldn't have put past these fucking devs. But yeah, there are multiple pointy mask helmets covered in wiry spikes, all sorts of self-flagellation going on. There's an enemy type that just, they wear a giant, eyeless, mouthless dome on their heads, covered in spikes, which they use to, like, just headbutt the ground and smash you. They intermittently stop mid-battle to just start scourging their own backs with a flail.
So it's S&M Mysterio?
Yes, S and Mysterio.
Mysteriosicism.
There's no way we're going to make it work, Elsa.
I just need to let it die.
See, now I'm stuck on it. Quentin, you'll be at my beck and call, you worm?
Fuck it, why not?
Why not? Why not?
Just
but
cut,
yes.
let's just take the fucking L on that one.
Take the massive fucking L.
Jesus Christ. Bigger than John Wick's dick.
Lords of the Fallen has that blasphemous energy, like, because that was one of the best things about Blasphemous, was the overwrought focus on penitence and martyrdom and taking all this, like, the most masochistic elements of religious iconography and going to fucking town with it. Yeah. And Lords of the Fallen, if you'd have told me that Lords of the Fallen took place in the Blasphemous universe, I could believe it.
Damn, that actually makes me kind of want to play it a little bit.
I love it. It's doing a lot right. It's got real co-op. Sadly, the matchmaking seems a bit fucked, but when it works, it's not like Dark Souls-y co-op. They don't disappear after a boss. You can go everywhere together, which is great because some of the map design's fucking atrocious, and it's fun to call in a co-op player who will just, like, lead you around.
That does sound nice.
It really is nice when it works. The visual design, like I said, fucking adore it. I adore the aesthetic. The combat is solid. Like, in terms of like I said, it's a really good forgery of Dark Souls. Plays so similar, but with this Soul Reaver style dual world mechanic that is quite well implemented.
Soul Reaver, wow, that's a fucking deep cut.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the game does itself no favours by just being full of ambushes and taking those wrong lessons from Dark Souls. The amount of times it surprised me with a boss fight, I've never been surprised by boss fights this much. It's so easy to wander into a boss arena without knowing, which is really annoying because when you're in the dead world, the umbral world, you're essentially on a time limit, because it gets more and more dangerous until you just get munched. While you're being pelted by projectiles, you're running and running through gauntlets sometimes, and then suddenly stumble onto a boss after you've just had the shit kicked out of you. So that can be really fucking annoying.
You know what that reminds me of? I almost feel like that's a catchphrase for me. Do you know what that reminds me of?
You know that reminds me of?
I say that so fucking often. It reminds me of two things. One, what they should have been taking lessons from is Bloodborne, the best video game.
The best video game, TM.
The best video game. And anyone who disagrees can fight me.
Anyone who disagrees has been helping Soviet scientists.
And I just wonder why those people hate freedom.
They were part of Bill Murray's crack troops.
Bloodborne telegraphs its boss fights. And that's a good thing. Like, it's
always a good thing.
Yes. There's usually a great big fuck off archway. There's a hallway, and then when the hallway suddenly expands into something fucking enormous.
Yes.
That's how you know.
It's aided by the fact that, like many good Souls-likes, they're evenly paced. That's something else Lords of the Fallen struggles with. There can be moments where you fight a boss, you finally fucking defeat the arsehole. You explore for all of 5 minutes before you've stumbled on another one. And Lords of the Fallen has a gorgeous world with beautiful environments that I want to explore. But I'm forever stumbling into boss fights. It took me about 10, 12 hours before I got to this big manse that is fully explorable, and it takes a while to find a boss, and it's really good. But Bloodborne, like you said, telegraphed bosses really well, and paced them really well.
Another thing it reminds me of, I would call this the rare but not unique blemish on the pacing of Final Fantasy X. I don't know if you have much of a memory for Final Fantasy X, but
I don't care what anyone says, by the way. You get people retroactively defending it now by saying, oh, it's supposed to be goofy and awkward. Yeah, it's also supposed to be charming, and it's not. It is stupid.
We're going to have to agree to disagree on that one, because I thought it was cute. It's awkward and embarrassing, and I think that it's cute when Tidus makes an ass of himself. He spends most of the game doing that because he's stupid as hell.
But I do like Final Fantasy X. I thought I didn't. When I first played it back in the day, I thought I wasn't enjoying it. And it's only looking back that I was like, that's a fucking good game.
Final Fantasy X was actually my first Final Fantasy.
Oh.
I know, right? That's a hell of a one to start with.
Mm-hmm. It really is. It's quite an introduction.
Hey, look, I've met people whose first Final Fantasy game was 13, so I think I'm doing better than them.
No. Another one that, at the time, I was a pariah for saying that it was shit. And I know I'm still on in your bad books for it. That you still send me death threats. They're friendlier now than they used to be, but you do still threaten to what was the last one you sent me? I'm gonna cut your fucking tits off.
No, I think what I said. No, that was actually the second to most recent one I did. I think this time I said I was just going to crucify you.
Yes, that was it. Yes,
I'm going to crucify you on the weird sort of logo that they gave to Lightning Returns. That's going to be the thing I use to crucify you.
Oh, like when they strapped Stone Cold Steve Austin to the old Undertaker logo.
Yes. and it's not
Oh,
totally not a
yes.
cross, not at all. They didn't.
Totally not. Oh god, we can play the old the old school Undertaker Ministry theme.
Oh, that would be
The
dope
one
as
that's like,
fuck. Does that mean I get to wear that sick ass coat?
You gotta wear that big ass coat with
Fuck
that
yeah.
wet ass pussy.
I fucking love that coat. That coat is dope as hell. But yes,
Mate, Ministry Undertaker was fucking awesome.
the reason I brought up Final Fantasy X though is because at the end of Mount Gagazet, when you get to the top of Mount Gagazet, there's actually
Mount Gargamel.
Yes, that Mount Kill All the Smurfs.
Mm-hmm.
You get like this 1, 2, 3 gauntlet of boss fights. Just apropos of nothing, you start Mount Gagazet with a fight in which you are forced to use the character that they had to have known no one was using, fucking Kimari.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I wasn't using him.
I mean,
pointless.
I tried to make use of him throughout my playthrough because I knew what was coming, and the best I could think of to fucking do was to. I think I ended up teaching him steal and use, and then just putting him down the same path as Tidus so that he could be fast. But fucking, it doesn't matter. So at the bottom of the mountain, you fight his two bullies. At the top of the mountain, you get a 3-minute cutscene followed by the hardest fight in the game so far with fucking Seymour and his weird, Seymour 3. Seymour with a vengeance.
I liked the design of that one.
So did I. It looked cool.
And I liked when he's like, your hope ends here and your meaningless existence is with it. Because I didn't like Seymour's voice actor for a lot of the game, because he just sounded so weird. He had no strength in his voice.
He sounded like Terrence Stamp.
It was an odd voice. It was high, but not with any threat or creepiness or likability or none of what I just said there really describes how I feel about his voice. It just didn't work for me. But that moment when he just screams that their meaningless existences are going to end, the delivery on that line stuck with me.
Fucking great.
Hard fucking boss though.
Yeah, it was fucking tough. And then, not long after that, you were talking about Lords of the Fallen, having a little bit of a jaunt and then another fucking boss fight. I think you go into the mountain cave, and the Sanctuary Guardian is not too far from that. And I think it actually is called the Sanctuary Guardian, like the fucking one from Dark Souls.
Yeah. Yeah, I got confused then. I was like, what game are we talking about? Because I instantly thought of the Manticore.
And the fact that there are Manticores in Final Fantasy X doesn't help.
Mm-mm.
Those were the first enemies, just mundane enemies in the game that really fucked with me in terms of gameplay. But the thing, the whole boss fight, long stretch of nothing, that's my sort of go-to when I think about that, is having to fight Seymour Flux is what it's called.
Mm.
And then a little walk around in a cave, and then I guess there was that weird puzzle section where you have to open up the 3 passageways or whatever the fuck. It's been I probably played Final Fantasy X more recently than you have, but it's still been a couple years.
Yeah.
Also, the unskippable cutscenes before really difficult boss fights is not something that game does once. It does it at least 3-4 times.
No time for it.
It's
literally no time for it.
Yeah, no, just. Ugh. But anyway, as we wind down,
as we start to wrap up the Spider-Man special of the Trashgirl Diaries.
Yes, the Spider-Man special regarding whether porn has gone woke.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's funny is I think a lot of Angela White's work could be described that way.
They're the modern feminist works.
It's true. Also, she had a thesis published in a university guide, I think. The Routledge Guide to like sex and sexuality. I think that's what it's fucking called. I don't remember off top, but the point is, Angela White is very attractive.
I think that's been the point of today's Spider-Man special. God, I'd love to buy Angela White a promise ring.
Oh. Oh.
So yeah, I actually do have to shoot off soon because I'm currently looking at the final draft copy of my Sonic Superstars review.
Oh.
So I'm gonna post that and then stay off the internet.
It's like you're lighting a powder keg. You just you set the match down and then you just fucking leg it.
I actually like it, but I haven't checked to see like whether this is one of the ones that the Sonic fandom has decided is bad.
Oh Jesus!
Because let me tell you, I speak from experience. They get just as angry at me when I like a Sonic game because we never see eye to eye. So typically, when I don't like a game, they love it and they get angry with me. If I like a game, they get angry with me. Because they've decided they don't.
Tell them to get angry with me, because I don't think there's been a good Sonic game since Sonic CD.
Well, I mean, that's part of what makes Sonic Superstars good, is because it's got modern visuals, but it could have been... It's more Sonic 4 than the actual Sonic 4.
Oh, well, I mean...
It's super straightforward, simple, proper old school, like even more than Sonic Mania, which had a lot of sort of remixy elements and still played with the formula quite a bit. Whereas Sonic Superstars really is just, do you want another one? Like, do you want another Mega Drive game? Here you go. Suck down your slop. Yeah, except for the boss fights.
Before we go, I will just say, like, this is another thing that you were right about. This was something you said during the Escapist days on the Jimquisition, when you said that the best formula for a Sonic game is, here's Sonic, he runs fast a bit, he goes around a loop-the-loop, he fights the fat man at the end, job's a good'un.
Job's a good'un. I'm actually considering doing a Jimquisition this coming Monday as we record about Sonic again, and my age-old complaint that they constantly reinvent the wheel with every fucking game, and that maybe Sonic wouldn't have had such inconsistent fucking releases where some are decent and the rest are all dog shit if they'd have spent some time just iterating on one of the promising ideas that the series has had. Sonic Lost World could have led to really good Sonic games if they'd have kept it in the oven, if they'd have iterated, but they didn't. Sonic Mania, one of the most beloved Sonic games of all time, never got a follow-up. Sonic Generations, that one was fucking great. Never saw another one. Because then it's always got to be some other bullshit around the corner. Werehogs, open world, crimes. So I might do a video on that, we'll see.
We will see. But for now, job's a good'un.
Job's a good'un. Is there anything you'd like to let the listener know about with regards to your own business?
No, except, in regards to business, I think I may actually need to do a shit before I go to work.
Oh.
And I want you to know.
Yeah, I'm going to have a good hard think about that.
Yeah, just think about me sat on the toilet,
right?
Probably playing Donkey Kong Country 3 on my Switch.
That feces just slaloming out of your anus. Dilated, of course.
Of course.
To an acceptable degree. Bye, listeners.
Ta-ta!